أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. We can get started with the material for our next lesson, lesson 17. And this is actually a very short and simple and sweet lesson. It won't be very difficult. Keep in mind that you always want to have the normal conjugation for the imperfect verb in mind. For a normal verb that does not have any weak letters, does not have any doubled letters, and also does not have hamza. In all of those cases, there will be occasional exceptions that may come into the conjugation. If you have that in mind, then you can see how the pattern is modified for different types of verbs. So today we're going to look at a few different types of verbs. The first is what's known as mithal. And does anybody remember what mithal was? It has a weak letter in the beginning. So the verb that has a weak letter, right, just to review, is known as al-fi'lul mu'tal. Mu'tal, it has a harful idla. Right? The weak letters are each known as harful idla, the letter of weakness. And the verb that has a weak letter is called al-fi'l al-mu'tal or al-mu'tal. And the types of mu'tal are mithal, ajwaf, and number 3, naqis. So mithal, if the first letter is a weak letter, and it can be either a waw or a ya. Yeah, there can be a ya as the first letter, like ya'isa, to lose hope. Ajwaf is if the second letter is a weak letter, and it can be a waw or a ya. And then naqis, if the third letter is a weak letter, and it can be a waw or a ya. And then there's also one type known as lafif. Lafif is if two of the letters are a weak letter. And the two letters can be either together, which would be known as maqroon, or separate, which would be known as mafruq. Separate if the first and third letter are weak letters, and maqroon if the second and third are weak letters. The first and second will not be weak letters in a verb. So the first type that we're going to look at is mithal. Mithal was, once again, if the first letter is a weak letter. Now, if the first letter is a ya, then nothing will be out of the ordinary for the conjugation. So we'll take the verb ya'isa, for example. Does anybody know what ya'isa means? Ya'isa means to lose hope. On the day of Ghadir, al-yawm ya'isa alladhina kafaru. Ma'yus means one who has lost hope. And the mudari is ya'asu. Ya'asu. So the conjugation, I'm not going to write the entire conjugation, but it's just according to the normal rules. Ya'asu, ya'asani, ya'asuna, تيأسوا تيأسان ييأسن تيأسوا تيأسان تيأسون تيأسين تيأسان تيأسن أيأسوا نيأسوا. Nothing is different from how it would be if there were no weak letters at all. The other form of mithal is if the first letter is a waw. What are some common examples? Wajada, he found. You'd expect the mudari to be, for example, yawjidu. But we don't say yawjidu, we say yajidu. Wada'a, he put. The present is not yawda'u, but yada'u.
So you just drop it.
You drop the waw. Yeah. It can look like a past tense because it has 3 letters, but the initial ya is the prefix for the mudari, and the waw, which is the root letter, is dropped.
In case of Gaza, it's Gaza. In case of Fatah,
You can have, because this jim is the second letter, so it can take either a fatha or a kasra or a dhamma. In the case of wajada yajidu, it takes a kasra. In the case of wada'a yada'u, it takes a fatha. Just like you can have yansuru or yaftahu or yadribu. So you can have yajidu or yada'u. Yeah, it's not past tense, and it has a dhamma, which is a sign of i'rab. Wa'ada, ya'idu, and so on and so forth.
I don't have an example, but I have seen one or two words where in Mudari form the waw is not dropped.
There are exceptional forms where the waw is not dropped. And there's only 1 or 2, I don't remember the examples right now. But I think one example is wajala yawjalu, if I'm not mistaken. But there are some exceptional cases where the waw is not dropped, and that's an exception to the rule. In general, the waw will be dropped in the mudari form. So, you can look on the chart, we have the conjugation for wa'ada ya'idu. And aside from dropping the waw in all 14 forms, there's no other change that will take place. Now, the letter after the prefix will have a kasra or a fatha. And that's because it's originally the second root letter, not the first root letter. So, ya'idu was originally yaw'idu. And that's why there is the prefix for mudari is followed by a haraka. It's not followed by a sukun. So, ya'idu, ya'idani, ya'iduna, ta'idu, ta'idani, ya'idna, ta'idu, ta'idani, ta'iduna, ta'idina, ta'idani, ta'idna, a'idu, na'idu. Regular endings, no change in the endings. Question? Ta'idina. Yes. There should be a kasra under the ayn. Yes. Now, if there is a verb with a weak letter that has a weak letter as the first and the third letter, then if the first letter is a waw, the waw will be dropped. Also, because the third letter is a harf al-illa, the same rules that we learned for al-fi'l al-naqis, they will apply. So for example, with the word waqa yaqi, waqa means to protect or to be careful or to be wary of. The mudari' will not be yawqi but yaqi. Question?
What's the difference between this is it called naqis?
It's called lafif, but it has the rules of both mithal and the rules of naqis, because it's mithal in terms of the first letter and it's naqis in terms of the third letter. It's called lafif in grammar textbooks. And the rules for naqis will also apply. So we'll see in this case yaqi, yaqiyani, and then we'll drop the ya as well in the plural. Instead of saying yaqiyuna, like ya'iduna, we'll say yaquna. I'll write this. Yaqi, yaqiyani, yaquna. In this verb form yaquna, it's the hum form, hum yaquna. The only root letter that we have remaining is what? The qaf. The ya is a prefix for mudari'. The waw is a pronoun, meaning they. The noon is there for i'rab, because it's marfu, so it's in the nominative case. It's a marfu verb. Feminine will be taqi, taqiyani, yaqina. And what are the root letters in yaqina? The qaf and the ya. This ya is the root letter because it's like ya'idna. So the qaf is like the ain and the ya is like the dal in ya'idna.
I wasn't here last week, and I'm just looking at this. And in this example from lesson 16, it says, like, laqiya, it says yaqina. Is it supposed to be yaqina or
Yaqina. Because the second letter of the mudari', which is the qaf, has a kasra in this case.
Okay, so it follows that.
It follows the pattern for not laqiya yalqa, but rama yarmi. Yarmi will be the same as yaqi.
So if the second letter has a kasra,
The second letter has a kasra.
Kina or ina.
Yes, it will end with, the second letter will have a kasra, and therefore the endings will be a little bit different than if the second letter has a fatha. So yalqa is conjugated differently than yarmi. And that same difference will translate into this case, because yaqi has a kasra. So whatever rule applied for the naqis verb, yarmi, will apply for this verb. So in this second person, we again have taqi, taqiyane, and then instead of saying yaqiyuna, we say, instead of saying taqiyuna, we say taquna. For the feminine, we have taqina, taqiyane, and then taqina. This is repeated. And then aqi, and naqi. But note that the word taqi and naqi is different from the noun form of the verb. In the noun form, when we say naqi, that ya has a shadda. And the root letters are noon, qaf, and one of these yas. In the word taqi as a noun, meaning pious, it's also the shadda, and the root letters are, we have a ta here. Originally it was a waw, it converts to a ta, that sometimes happens in Arabic, and then a qaf and a ya.
So this is Yaqafia.
Waw qaf ya. Waw qaf ya. But it becomes a ta. Just like the word taqwa.
So this
Taqwa is related
this
to
waqaya is
waqa.
the root for taqi.
Waqa and taqwa are the same root. It's just that the waw converts to a ta in certain cases. So the conjugation is according to that pattern. Now, we've done naqis, we've talked about ajwaf, we've done mithal, and we've done one type of lafif, which is if the first and third letter are a weak letter. Now what happens if the second and third letter are weak letters? Right, that's also another type of lafif. That's actually very easy. If the second and third letters are weak, then the second letter will pretend it's not a weak letter, and only the third letter will be treated as a weak letter, and therefore it will be treated just as if it were a fi'l naqis. So the word rawa yarwi will be conjugated just like rama yarmi. I won't write it, but I'll read both conjugations side by side. So we had yarmi, here we have yarwi. Yarmiyane, yarwiyane. Yarmuna, yarwuna. Then here, tarmi, here we have tarwi. Tarmiyane, tarwiyane. Yarmina, yarwina. Anta tarmi, or tarwi. Tarmiyane, tarwiyane. Tarmuna, tarwuna. Anti, tarmina, here we have tarwina. Tarmiyane, tarwiyane. Tarmina, tarwina. Ana armi, ana arwi. Nahnu narmi, or narwi. So notice that it's the exact same pattern. The waw is a weak letter, but it's treated just as if it were the meme of yarmi. No special rules exist for the conjugation. Any questions? And then one final chart that we talked about this last week, as we had a few examples, is the verb ra'a, yara. And in the verb ra'a, yara, the hamza, which is the second letter, is dropped in the mudari'. So you would expect it to be yar'a. But instead of saying yar'a, we say yara. By dropping the hamza and taking the fatha that used to be on the hamza and putting it on the ra. Because yar'a, the ra was sakin. So when we drop the hamza, we take that fatha, we put it on the ra. It becomes yara.
As if the ra was the second letter.
As if the ra were the second letter, for example. So the conjugation is yara, yarayane, yarawna, tara, tarayane, tarawna, yarayna, tara, tarayane, tarawna, tarayna, tarayane, tarayna, ara, nara. The pattern is the exact same as it was for yalqa, with the difference that the hamza is dropped. But the endings are the same. So we can take a few examples now from the Quran. You'll see hatta yalija al-jamalu. That's from the verb walaja, yaliju. and it's yalija with the fatha for a particular reason. We'll talk about that in the next lesson. But the verb is walaja yaliju, to pass through. لِنَجْعَلَهَا لَكُمْ تَذْكِرَةً وَتَعِيَهَا. That's from the word wa'a ya'i. Wa'a ya'i means to encompass or understand or be aware, so that you may understand. It's lafif because the first and third letter are both weak letters. So in the present tense, ya'i, the waw is dropped and the ya is a weak letter. And then ta'iyaha, in the mudari, it would be ta'i, but here it becomes mansub, so it becomes ta'iyah. And we'll talk about why it's mansub later. But the fa'il is udhun. Udhun is the plural of, or udhun is ear, right? Plural adhan. It's the fa'il of ta'i, so that an alert ear can encompass and understand it. Ya'iduhum, he promises them. Wa yumannihim, and that's also a verb form that we haven't covered yet. He makes them have hope. He gives them, he makes them have wishes. وَمَا يَعِدُهُمُ الشَّيْطَانُ إِلَّا غُرُورًا. مَا يَعِدُهُم, and he does not promise them. The he being shaitan. Yumannihim. The verb is yumanni, but we haven't covered that verb form yet.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and so in the verb yumanni, because the shadda is above the haraka, it's a kasra. Ash-shaytanu ya'idukum. Right? The fa'il is a pronoun huwa, which refers to shaitan. He promises you. Al-faqra. He promises you poverty. وَيَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالْفَحْشَاءِ, and he orders you to do what is evil. وَاللَّهُ يَعِدُكُمْ مَغْفِرَةً, and God promises you مَغْفِرَةً, forgiveness. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ يَصِلُونَ, this is plural, and it's from the verb wasala. يَصِلُ, which means to reach. Usul means reaching. So wasala yasilu, yasilani, yasiluna, those who reach. Alladhina yasiluna, those who reach. Falan tajida, tajida is from wajada yajidu. Tajida is the anta form, you find. And again, you would expect it to be tajidu, but it becomes tajida because it's mansub. The case is different. Tajida is the same as tajidu. The form changes, and we'll explain why in the future lessons. And then one note on the verb wadda. Right? What kind of a verb is wadda? It has a sadda on the second letter, so it's muda'af. wadda. It's mudha'af because it has a double letter. And it does have a weak letter, so it is mithal. But in this case, the weak letter will not drop in the imperfect tense. So we won't say yaddu. We'll say yawaddu. For the, yes. The reason is that when we drop the waw, normally the next letter will have a haraka. So in yak tubu, if we were to drop the kaf, the ta has a haraka, tu. Right? So in ya'idu, the ayn has a haraka. In yada'u, the ba has a haraka. But in yawaddu, if we were to drop the waw, the dal has a shadda, which begins with a sukoon. And so we don't drop the waw. So it's wadda yawaddu. And that's used in the Quran. Yawaddu ahaduhum law yu'ammaru alfa sanatin. Wadda is to like, to wish, to want, to desire. And often it's used with a law after it. So you can say awaddu, I want, or I wish. And then after it, you can either say, I wish for this to take place, or I wish that this were the case. If it's something that I wish to happen in the future, the verb after it will be in the imperfect tense. So I'll say, awaddu, law anjahu. I wish for me to be successful, or I wish I would be successful. And if it's something that I wish had happened in the past, the verb after law will be in the past tense. Awaddu law najahtu. I wish I had succeeded. So this would be awaddu law anjahu, I wish I would succeed. Awaddu law najahtu, I wish I had succeeded.
The law, to remind myself, the law is what?
Law is a conditional. So it's literally if. But here it gives the meaning of an infinitive. I wish that, or I would like for this to happen. Normally law is used for a conditional sentence.
If we wanted to say he wished he would succeed, would we change awadda to?
You would say, for example, wadda law yanjahu. Wadda law yanjahu. Sorry? Aflaha is a form that we haven't learned yet. So awaddu law, that should be yuflihu. I'm sorry. Yuflihu. Not yaflahu. Yuflihu. To succeed is yuflihu. We haven't covered that type of a verb. Yuflihu is the present tense, or the imperfect tense. And awaddu law aflaha. I wish that he had succeeded. Aflaha also we haven't covered. It's in the Quran. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ. The believers have succeeded. And it's also possible for the word wadda to be followed by a sentence that has anna and be a nominal sentence, a sentence without a verb. Right? So in the sentence tawaddu here, لو أن بينها وبينه أمدا بعيدا. She wishes that أن بينها وبينه أمدا بعيدا, that there were a long distance between her and him. So that nominal sentence is introduced by anna. Question?
If we I wish,
Awaddu is I wish. Yeah, in the chart it is written awaddu, but in many cases the dhamma is cut off in the printing. So just be aware of that. You'll see that in many cases. Notice the sentence أن بينها وبينه أمدا بعيدا. Anna requires an ism and a khabar. The ism in this case is coming at the end of the sentence. Anna amadan ba'idan, that, a distance that is great, a great distance. What about that great distance? Between her and him. So she wishes, so tawaddu, for example, lo, for anna amadan ba'idan, that a great distance, baynaha wa baynahu, is between her and him, or between them. So don't be confused by the fact that the order is flipped. You're still saying that the great distance should be between them. So the subject of the sentence is a great distance. The predicate of the sentence is baynaha wa baynahu.
That is directly marked.
Yes, baynaha wa baynahu, not the word,
Right.
but that whole phrase is marfu' in terms of its location. But this is the predicate, because you're not saying she wishes that between them be a distance. You're saying that she wishes that there were a distance between them. So why don't we stop there for now and look at the exercises for lesson 16. Which are on page 99. We'll start with exercise A, which has verbs, and I will write the verbs and put the haraka. You can correct your homework and also tell me the translation. So the first one was adri. If you didn't get a chance to do the homework, you're welcome to sit and go over it with us. If you prefer for suspense and to try to work it out at home, you're welcome also to leave and then listen to the recording. So whichever is easier for you. But do work through it, even if you haven't done it yet and you're staying in class. Don't just leave it at getting the answers, but try to figure them out as well. So, adri, what does that mean? I know, thank you. Now, for this one, did you put yardun or yardawn? Yardawna. Because it's like yalqa. And what is the translation? They are pleased. Thank you. They are pleased. They are happy. So it's imperfect. Ya'sina. And what is this? What is it? They disobey. And is it masculine or feminine? Feminine. And yardawna was masculine. Next one. Did you have yansuna or yansona? Yansona is correct. And what does it mean? They forget, masculine or feminine? Masculine. Next one was ta'tina, meaning you come. You come, and it's feminine. Next one, yad'una. Translation? They call. Is it masculine or feminine? It can be masculine or feminine. Right? This is one of those forms that it's the same. Do you remember that? Yad'una can be yaf'uluna or yaf'ulna. So it can be either they masculine or they feminine. If you need to review that, take a look at the chart and you'll see that they're the same form. Next one. Yabnuna. Good. And this is they build, masculine or feminine? This is masculine. Yabnuna is only masculine. The difference between yabnuna and yad'una is that yad'una, the root letter is a waw. So even the feminine plural form is still yad'una. But in yabnuna, the root letter is a ya. So in the masculine plural we say yabnuna, but in the feminine plural we say yabnina. The ya is what stays. So yabnuna is only masculine. Tarmina. You, feminine, shoot. Right? Singular. Feminine, singular. You shoot. Can it be anything else? So it can be you, feminine, singular, shoot. Anti, tarmina. Or you, feminine, plural. Antunna, tarmina. It can be the anti form or the antunna form. Question? Right? Tarmina, tarmiyane, tarmina. And then we have tahduna. You guide. And what is it? It's masculine plural. Ya'tuna. They come, masculine, plural. What's next? Tardaina. Tardaina. You are pleased, feminine. And it can be singular. Anti tardaina. Or it can be plural antunna tardaina. Well, it's the mudari form is yarda. It's written with a ya, but it's an alif.
Okay, what it implies is that the second letter has a fatha. So it's got this form of like lakin.
It's like laqiya yarqa. Yeah.
Oh, it's
Radiya yarda. And then tansiyani. It could be the two of you forget, masculine and feminine, or it can be feminine, dual, third person. Those two women forget. Tansa, tansayani. So it can be huma, feminine, or antuma, masculine or feminine. Okay, we can continue. For the next one, we want to give the imperfect. So, ataitu, I came. What's the imperfect? Ati, I come. Radiya, he was pleased. Yarda, يرضى, he is pleased. عصينا, they, women, feminine, disobeyed. يعصينا, they disobey. هدينا, نهدي. رميا, they threw. يرميان, they are throwing. دريتم, تدرون, تدرون. Nasita. Nasita is you forgot. Tansa, you forget. Ata, he came. Ya'ti, he comes. Da'awna, they call, or we called. Nad'u, we call. Asaitu, Asaiti. Ta'asina, Raditum, you were pleased. Tardawna, you are pleased. And this is darat. Remember, if it's naqis, in the hiya form, that third letter will drop. So, sa'a, yasa'a, right? To run or to try. Sa'at. We won't say sa'ayat. This is from dara. Tadri. In the imperfect. Tadri. For the next section, I will read. You can correct your haraka and i'rab, and then we'll translate it. We won't write it down. Inna Ismaila, no tanween. Madhkurun fil kitabi. Wa kana rasulan nabiyan. Kana, huwa is the subject. And then the predicate or the khabar is rasulan nabiyan. Wa kana, the ism of kana is huwa, and the khabar is ya'muru ahlahu bis salati. Translation: Indeed, Ismail, madhkurun, is mentioned fil kitabi, in the book. Wa kana rasulan nabiyan, and he was a messenger and a prophet. Notice there's no wa in Arabic, but you would need an and in English. وَكَانَ يَأْمُرُ, and he would command أَهْلَهُ, his family, بِالصَّلَاةِ, to pray. He would command them to pray. Number 2, مَا كُنْتَ تدري ما الكتاب ولا الإيمان ما كنت تدري. You did not used to know. And then ما الكتاب, what is the book? ولا الإيمان, nor faith. ولكننا, that's لكننا, the word is لكننا plus na. So you can say لكننا, or you can shorten it to لكننا. لكننا جعلنا نورا نهدي به من نشاء. However, we جعلنا made نورا, a light. And then what comes after nuran? That's an adjective. A light that نهدي به من نشاء, we guide with it من نشاء, who we please, or whom we please.
So when you use kana, this is going back to the first. You use kana before a perfect verb. It is used as would then.
If you use kana before an imperfect verb, before imperfect verb, then it gives the meaning of he used to, or to habitually have done something, or to have been doing something. So kana ya'muru, he used to command, or he was commanding.
So if you would just use the past tense,
it would be a simple he commanded.
He did it at one time. This is
yes. So
this was a common thing he would do.
So the difference between amara, he commanded, and kana ya'muru, he used to command, or he was commanding.
Like
continuous or progressive, depending on the context. Number 3, ma tadri nafsun. Nafsun is the fa'il, and it's feminine. Nafs is feminine in Arabic, which is why tadri is feminine. Ma tadri nafsun. Nafsun is like saying here. بأي أرض تموت. ما تدري نفس. A soul does not know. And when we say a soul does not know, what we mean is no soul knows. You're negating it from any soul. So any soul does not know, meaning no soul knows. بأي أرض, in which earth, tamutu, it will die. Ard here means land. So in which land it will die. Not planet. The next sentence is an interesting sentence. الدنيا والآخرة ضرتان. This world, this life, and the hereafter are two co-wives. Are two co-wives. Darra is an Arabic word that means two wives who are related to the same man. It comes from the same root as the word darar, which is harm. And that's not by coincidence. So, darra, two wives. فبقدر ما ترضى إحداهما تسخط الأخرى. بقدر ما, to the extent that ترضى إحداهما, one of them is pleased, تسخط الأخرى, the other one is angered. Rida is pleasure, sakhat is anger. Biqadar means to the extent, to the amount. So to the amount that one is pleased, the other one will be angry. that figurative reference to the world as a wife, it's common in Arabic. It's found in some of the sayings of Imam Ali as well, because the word dunya and akhirah are both feminine. So Imam Ali also speaks of his renouncing the world as having divorced the world. One saying says that I've divorced the world 3 times. It's a figurative usage. Number 5, in sa'altum, if you asked. Now notice that the verb is past tense, sa'altum, but the meaning is future. If you need, you can circle that because it's a common usage in Arabic. After in, if, whether the verb is present, meaning imperfect or perfect, the meaning will be future. You can use either one. In sa'altum, if you ask, man khalaqa as-samawati wal arda, who created the heavens and the earth? لَيَقُولُونَ, and this is not an exact quotation, but it's derived from a Quranic verse. لَيَقُولُونَ خَلَقَهُنَّ اللَّهُ, they shall say, خَلَقَهُنَّ Allahu, Allah has created hunna, them. Number 6, تَنَامُ عَيْنَايَ. عَيْنَايَ might sound like an odd form, but it's taken from the word aynane. What is aynane? 2 eyes, right? We want to make it mudaf to ya, meaning my. When it's mudaf, the noon falls. So we have aynaya. We put a fatha on the ya so we can pronounce it. Tanamu aynaya. My 2 eyes sleep. Why is it tanamu and not yanamu? Because ayn is feminine. So tanamu aynaya wa la yanamu qalbi. And my heart does not sleep. Number 7. وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْهُمْ. And verily there has come to them, or came to them, a prophet minhum, from them. فَكَذَّبُوهُ. So they belied him. فَأَخَذَهُمُ الْعَذَابُ. So adab, punishment or torture, أَخَذَ, took them. So punishment overtook them. وَهُمْ ظَالِمُونَ, while they were oppressive. Remember the waw can mean while. So while they were oppressive. Number 8, وَإِذْ جَعَلَ السَّامِرِيُّ عِجْلًا. And when the Samiri, جَعَلَ made, عِجْلًا, عِجْل is a calf. When the Samiri made a calf, لِبَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ, for the children of Israel. قَالَ هَذَا إِلَهُكُمْ. This is your Lord, your God. وَإِلَهُ Musa, and the God of Musa. فَعَبَدُوهُ وَنَسُوا اللَّهَ, or نَسُوا اللَّهَ. So they worshipped it. عَبَدُوهُ, the whole refers to the ijl. They worshipped it. وَنَسُوا اللَّهَ, and they forgot God. Now, we don't say nasu Allah. We shorten it and say nasullah. Nasullah. But it's written out in full. Several of these sentences, they're indirectly derived from Quranic verses, but the wording has been somewhat changed and simplified to keep it to the level of grammar that we've covered so far. Number 9, فَإِذَا جَاءَ مُوسَى. So when Musa came, قَالَ يَا هَارُونُ, he said, O Harun, مَا مَنَعَكَ, what prevented you, إِذْ رَأَيْتَهُمْ ضَلُّوا, when you saw them astray, they had gone astray. ضَلَّ, to go astray. ضَلُّوا, they went astray. مَا مَنَعَكَ أَلَّا تَتَّبِعَنِي, for you not to follow me. What prevented you, or what made you not follow me? That أَلَّا تَتَّبِعَني is a form that we haven't covered yet. That's why it's explained in the footnote. Question? In number 4, it was ad-dunya wal-akhiratu. Yes. Number 10, yahdi Allah. Yahdi Allahu. But we'll shorten it and say yahdillahu. Yahdillahu, God guides, linurihi, to His light, man yasha'u, whom He wills. Number 11, inni akhafu, indeed I am afraid, in asaytu rabbi, if I disobey my Lord, adaba yawmin adimin. Adaba is mansub because it is the maf'ul of akhafu. Inni akhafu, I fear, adaba, the chastisement, the torture of yawmin, a day, adimin, that is great. It's mudaf ilayh. And when do I fear it, or when would I fear it? In asaytu rabbi, if I disobey my Lord. And notice again, in is conditional, asaytu is a past tense verb, perfect verb. But the meaning is conditional in its future. If I am to disobey my Lord. So after in, you might see a perfect verb, but the meaning will be future. And D, we'll translate these into Arabic, so we can write these. We arose and traveled. So can somebody read it for me, what you had written? Qumna, we arose and traveled. Wasirna, and traveled. And did not sleep. Wama nimna, and we did not sleep while traveling. Wa nahnu, while sa'irun, while we are traveling.
We're saying while traveling, could we use the verbal noun of traveling? The masdar?
The masdar does not give the sense of an adjective.
It would be like while the act of traveling.
Yeah, so you'd want to use the participle, ideally. Number 2, we are rich and they are poor. Nahnu aghniya'u wa hum fuqara'u, they are poor, but we have not oppressed them. You can say walakin ma zalamnahum Number 3, I saw a light in the house. Ra'aytu nuran fil bayti. But when I looked in, lakin, when I looked in, lamma, you can say lamma, or you can say idh as well. Nazartu fihi, when I looked in, or lamma nazartu, I did not see anyone. Ma ra'aytu ahadan, I did not see anyone. Number 4, they do good works. يعملون الصالحات. Salihat is good deeds or good works. And that is better for them. وهو خير لهم than tyranny من الظلم. It is better for them than tyranny.
Why is it huwa? And why is it because of khair?
وهو meaning that doing of good deeds. So you can say ذلك.
Yeah.
Instead of saying وهو خير, you can say وذلك خير. That's fine as well. Number 5. When the children of Israel disobeyed Musa and forgot their faith. لما عصى بنو إسرائيل موسى ونسوا, and they forgot their faith, إيمانهم, he cursed them violently. لعنهم. Yeah, I think you should put لعنا شديدا. لعنهم لعنا شديدا. A cursing that is harsh. A goodly cursing. Have you ever heard the likes of this? هل سمعت مثل هذا? Or you can say بمثل هذا. It's also fine. هل سمعت مثل هذا or بمثل هذا. 7. I do not know which of the unbelievers is the most disobedient. لا أدري. I don't know. أي الكافرين which of the unbelievers أقصى most disobedient.
Is that like a relative form?
It's the elative form. أقصى, more disobedient. You can also say أشد عصيانا. Isyan is disobedience. You can say al-a'sa as well. So ayyul kafirina a'sa is which of the disbelievers is more disobedient. And ayyul kafirina al-a'sa is the most disobedient. But either one could be used. And then the reading selection, we can read it together. I will read and you translate. إذ قال إبراهيم لأبيه, when Ibrahim said to his caretaker, وقومه, and his people, ما تعبدون. ما تعبدون, it's a question. No, what do you worship? Be careful with the ma, because it can mean, it can be a question, it can mean a negation. Here it's a question. What do you worship? قالوا نعبد أصناما. They said, we worship idols. قال هل يسمعونكم إذ تدعون. He said, do they hear you? إذ تدعون, when you call them, when you call. أو ينفعونكم, or do they benefit you? أو يضرون, or do they harm you? Do they harm? قالوا بل وجدنا آباءنا كذلك يفعلون. They said, rather, or instead, or but, we found our fathers, our ancestors, doing thus, or like this doing this. قال أفرأيتم ما كنتم تعبدون. He said, so did you see, أفرأيتم, loosely, so then do you think or do you see, that which you worship, أنتم وآباؤكم الأقدمون, you and your oldest ancestors, your most ancient forefathers, فإنهم عدو لي إلا رب العالمين. They are enemies for me, or they are an enemy for me, except the Lord of the worlds. الذي خلقني فهو يهديني. فهو يهديني. So, ما كنتم تعبدون. Yes, that which you worship, you and your oldest forefathers, they are an enemy for me. إلا رب العالمين, except for the Lord of the worlds. Yes. الذي خلقني, who created me, فهو يهدين, and he guides me. Or then he guides me. And after that energizing story of faith and monotheism, we had planned to start lesson 18 today. Really, we had. But because we didn't actually get to benefit from our time before Maghrib, what I will do is I will pass out lesson 18 notes. Please take a look at them. And we'll resume next week. Before Maghrib, inshallah, next week we'll meet here and we will go over the homework first. So, for those of you who it's difficult to come on time, inshallah, you can catch up later. But, thank you. Actually, but you can catch up, inshallah, afterwards. We will try to start 7:30. We'll have about half an hour, a little bit under half an hour until Salah, and then we'll continue afterwards. We might continue the homework at the end of class if there's some parts that are left. But, inshallah, after Maghrib, we'll start the new material. So we can conclude with Salah.